There comes a moment in every Sigma male's life when he realizes the people he loves most know him the least. Not because he hides who he is, but because they only ever saw the surface, the calm, the silence, the strength, while missing the storm of thought, loyalty, and intention underneath. He moves differently, feels differently, loves differently, and that difference is exactly why he becomes the most misunderstood person in the room. Those closest to him think he's distant when he's actually overwhelmed with depth. They think he's cold when he's actually protecting everyone from the weight of what he carries. They think he doesn't care, yet he's the one who stays up analyzing every word, every shift, every fracture in the relationship long after everyone else has gone to sleep. But here's the real mystery. Why is he always misunderstood by the very people he would give everything for? What if the truth isn't about who he is, but about what others cannot see? Tell me in the comments before the video begins, do you think being misunderstood is a flaw or a form of protection? And if you're new here, subscribe to Ultra Wise so you never miss the deeper layers behind the Sigma mind. He communicates through actions, not emotions, so the people he loves misread his silence as distance. A Sigma male's love language has never been wrapped in dramatic displays or loud emotional declarations. It's hidden in the small, steady actions he offers without asking for recognition. He shows up, he supports, he fixes things quietly, he remembers details no one else catches, and to him, that consistency is the clearest form of affection. But the people he loves often expect emotional expression, not emotional discipline. They want reassurance in words, softness in tone, vulnerability in conversation. What they don't realize is that for him, speaking emotions cheaply feels like contaminating something pure. So he stays silent, believing his reliability says everything. Yet that silence, to others, becomes a void they can't read. They mistake his calm for coldness, his quiet for disinterest, his inner stability for emotional distance. Behind that silence, however, is a man constantly calculating how to protect the relationship, not harm it. He avoids unnecessary conflict, so he listens more than he reacts. He avoids emotional volatility, so he responds with patience instead of panic. He avoids overwhelming the people he loves, so he carries burdens alone. What looks like emotional distance is often emotional responsibility, the desire to shield others from his own storms, doubts, or exhaustion. But because those storms stay hidden, his loved ones conclude that he feels nothing at all. Over time, this creates a heartbreaking paradox. The more he cares, the less he expresses, and the less he expresses, the more they believe he doesn't care. He becomes misunderstood not because he lacks emotion, but because his emotions run so deep he refuses to weaponize them or perform them for comfort. Only those who slow down, watch closely, and understand his language of action will see the truth. His silence is not absence. It is devotion spoken in a dialect most people never learn to hear. He protects others from his inner struggles, causing them to think he has none. A Sigma male carries his battles with the same silence he carries his strength, privately, without ceremony, and without placing a single burden on the people he loves. He could be drowning internally, yet he will still offer calm to others because he refuses to let anyone feel responsible for his storms. In his world, struggle is not something to share, it is something to solve. So he compartmentalizes, he isolates the wound, he confronts the pain alone, believing it is an act of love to shield others from the weight he can carry himself. But this self-containment creates an illusion that he feels nothing deeply, that nothing touches him, that he moves through life untouched by fear, doubt, or fatigue. To the people around him, his stability becomes a myth. They see his quiet as emotional invincibility, his composure as effortless certainty, his isolation as a sign that everything inside him is calm. They assume he doesn't struggle because he never shows the cracks, forgetting that some men don't reveal the cracks because they were taught to fix them before anyone notices. His refusal to unload on others is not pride, it is protection. He knows how heavy the world can become, so he refuses to hand that weight to anyone else. He would rather break in silence than watch someone he loves bend under pressure meant for him. Yet this very loyalty becomes the source of misunderstanding. Because people only see the finished version he presents, the calm after the storm, never the storm itself, they start believing he never needed support in the first place. They misinterpret his resilience as emotional distance, his private healing as emotional emptiness. And so the irony forms. The more he protects others from his pain, the more invisible that pain becomes, until he appears almost unhuman in his strength. What they don't realize is that his silence isn't a lack of struggle. It's a shield built out of love, discipline, and the belief that no one should bleed from wounds that are his to carry. He loves deeply but expresses it subtly, so his devotion often goes unnoticed. A Sigma male does not love loudly. He does not overwhelm with declarations, grand gestures, or constant reassurance. His love moves differently, quietly, consistently, and with a depth most people don't recognize until long after the moment has passed. When he cares, he shows it in the details, remembering the things others forget, anticipating needs before they're spoken, protecting someone's peace even when they don't see the silent battles he fights on their behalf. But because he rarely verbalizes his feelings, his love becomes something you feel in the atmosphere around him, not in statements or displays. This subtlety makes his devotion appear understated, almost invisible to those who expect love to be loud. The truth is that he fears cheapening his emotions with theatrics. He believes real love is proven through presence, reliability, and the kind of loyalty that never needs to announce itself. So instead of saying, "I love you," he listens when no one else does. Instead of promising forever, he shows up when it matters. Instead of demanding attention, he gives space when you need it. But these quiet forms of affection are easy to miss, especially for people who are accustomed to more traditional expressions of love. They look for passion in the fire, not realizing he carries it in the embers, steady, warm, unwavering. And because he hides his heart behind calmness, people often assume he feels less than he does. They mistake his restraint for detachment, unaware that he holds back precisely because he feels so much. He loves with an intensity he refuses to weaponize or overwhelm others with. His devotion is a private vow, not a performance. So it often goes unrecognized until the moment he's gone, when his absence reveals the magnitude of everything he once carried quietly. Only then do people understand that his subtle gestures were not small at all. They were the truest form of love he knew how to give. He observes more than he speaks, leading others to assume he is detached rather than attentive. A Sigma male rarely rushes into conversations or emotions. Instead, he sits back, watches, listens, and studies everything unfolding around him. The tone behind your words, the weight behind your silence, the micro-expressions you don't even know you make. This deep observation is his primary language, but because it is quiet and almost invisible, people misinterpret it as emotional distance. They assume he is disconnected when, in reality, he is processing more than he ever reveals. While others fill the room with noise, he fills it with awareness. He gives his attention not to be seen, but to understand. And that kind of focus can be mistaken for indifference by those who don't know how he loves. His mind works in layers. While someone explains their frustrations, he's noticing the flicker in their eyes that contradicts their tone. While someone smiles, he senses the exhaustion hiding behind it. And in arguments, he does not shout. He studies, analyzes, calibrates. People expect engagement through words, but he engages through perception. This creates a gap between intention and interpretation. He thinks he is showing care by listening deeply, but they think he is uninvolved because he isn't speaking. What feels like presence to him feels like distance to them, and that misunderstanding becomes the fracture that follows him into nearly every close relationship. The irony is that he notices more than anyone else in the room. He sees the shift in someone's behavior before they realize it themselves. He senses when someone is pulling away, when they're hurting, when they're lying, when they're overwhelmed. He reads the room like a map and reads people like stories they haven't finished writing. But because he keeps these insights to himself, others rarely know how closely he pays attention. They only feel the silence, not the understanding it contains. So people label him detached, aloof, emotionally unavailable. They never realize his silence is proof of the depth of his awareness, not the absence of it. He isn't distant, he's discerning. And the tragedy is that people often discover the truth only after he is gone, when they look back and recognize the moments he saw them more clearly than they ever saw him. He rarely asks for help, making loved ones believe he doesn't need support or connection. A Sigma male carries his burdens like shadows, always present, never discussed. He grew up learning that vulnerability invites expectations, pressure, or disappointment, so he built a life around self-reliance. To him, handling everything alone is not pride, it is survival. But to the people who care about him, that silence becomes a wall. They assume he is strong enough without them, stable without support, unaffected by struggles that would break others. What they don't see is the depth of effort behind his calm exterior, or the storms he navigates quietly while the world believes he stands untouched. He doesn't ask for help because he does not want to become a burden. In his mind, leaning on someone means risking dependency, risking misunderstanding, risking the loss of autonomy he spent years constructing. So he fixes his own problems, heals his own wounds, and rebuilds himself in the dark, even when the weight is crushing. Loved ones mistake this independence as emotional distance. They think he doesn't trust them, doesn't need them, or doesn't value connection. But the truth is simpler and more painful. He doesn't want anyone to feel responsible for his battles. And this misunderstanding grows quietly. While he believes he is protecting others from his pain, they believe he is shutting them out. While he thinks he is sparing them, they think he is excluding them. Over time, the gap widens, not because of a lack of love, but because of a difference in how he expresses it. His silence becomes their insecurity, and his strength becomes their confusion. They wish he would open up, but he only knows how to carry things privately. By the time people realize how much he was holding inside, it's usually after he has already weathered the storm alone. They see the scars only when the battle is over. They understand too late that his independence was never a sign of not needing support. It was a sign of never wanting to be a burden to the people he cares about most. He prioritizes peace over confrontation, which can look like indifference instead of emotional intelligence. A Sigma male does not raise his voice when hurt, threatened, or disrespected. He withdraws into silence. Not because he doesn't care, but because he refuses to feed chaos with more chaos. To him, conflict is rarely about truth or resolution. It is about egos demanding to be heard. And he has no interest in performing emotional theatrics. So when tension rises, he steps back, analyzes the situation with calm precision, and chooses the response that protects his inner peace rather than satisfying anyone's expectations. To the people who love him, this can seem cold. They see him walk away instead of arguing, listen without reacting, and let provocations fall flat. They assume he is detached, unbothered, or emotionally distant. But what they miss is the depth of discipline behind his behavior. He knows that arguing destroys clarity. He knows that reactive emotions twist intentions. And he knows that once a fight begins, people stop listening and start defending. So he chooses the higher ground, not for superiority, but for sanity. His silence is not apathy, it is restraint. It is the quiet decision to protect the relationship rather than win the moment. It is the understanding that peace is more valuable than being right. But because he doesn't play by emotional rules most people expect, his calm reads like indifference. Loved ones may think he doesn't care enough to fight, when in reality, he cares too much to let a temporary storm create permanent damage. What they never see is the internal battle he fights before choosing stillness. He feels the tension. He recognizes the hurt. He notices the disrespect, but he refuses to let it control his actions. That is emotional intelligence at its highest form, responding intentionally rather than reacting impulsively. Yet the irony is painful. The very trait that protects his relationships is often misinterpreted as detachment. He maintains peace, and others assume he lacks passion. He avoids unnecessary conflict, and they accuse him of being distant. In truth, his calm is his commitment. His silence is his effort. Peace is his language, even if few understand what it truly costs him. He evolves internally faster than he expresses externally, leaving others confused about who he truly is. A Sigma male's transformation rarely happens where anyone can see it. His growth is silent, private, and deeply internal. A constant recalibration of beliefs, values, boundaries, and identity. While most people change only when life forces them to, he evolves by choice. He absorbs experiences, analyzes outcomes, studies patterns, and upgrades his worldview long before anyone around him realizes something has shifted. To him, evolution is an inner ritual, not a public announcement. But this creates a powerful disconnect. The people in his life interact with the version of him they remember, not the version he has already become. They hold on to old expectations, old dynamics, old assumptions, without realizing he has quietly outgrown them. They speak to him as if he is the same man he was months ago, while internally he has crossed entire emotional landscapes. This mismatch leaves them confused, not because he is inconsistent, but because he evolves at a pace they cannot track. Externally, he appears calm, steady, even predictable. Internally, he is rewriting his identity, shedding outdated beliefs, letting go of people who no longer align with his path, and redefining what he wants from life. By the time he communicates a change, if he communicates it at all, he has already lived with that decision for weeks or months. To others, it feels sudden. To him, it is overdue. This is why many misunderstand him. They think he hides things, when in reality, he simply processes life faster than he verbalizes it. They think he is unpredictable, when he has been moving in the same direction internally the entire time. They think he changed overnight, when the truth is that he evolved quietly in the background, away from noise, pressure, and outside influence. His internal evolution is constant. His external expression is selective. And the gap between the two is where people lose sight of who he truly is. But he doesn't evolve for their understanding. He evolves for his freedom, and that is something he will never slow down for anyone. When you finally understand a Sigma male, it's never because he explained himself. It's because you learned to read the silence he lives in. His depth isn't loud. His love isn't theatrical. And his evolution isn't performed for applause. He grows quietly, chooses carefully, and detaches gracefully. And by the time the world realizes how rare he truly is, he's already stepped into the next version of himself. If this video helped you see the hidden side of the Sigma mind, imagine what else you'll understand by staying with this channel. There's always another layer, another truth, another perspective waiting beneath the surface. So now I want to hear from you. Which part of this resonated the most? What did it make you rethink about yourself or someone you know? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because your words help shape the next conversations we have here. If you want more deep psychological storytelling about the Sigma mindset, make sure you subscribe to UltraWise and turn on notifications. Don't miss what comes next. It might explain a part of yourself you've never been able to put into words.